How's it going, Kingdom Kinfolk? Today on this episode of Kingdom News, I actually wanted to talk about something that's going on in Japanese culture that could actually help you understand some principles and things in the scripture like the Shabbat or just not overworking and chasing money. So let's go ahead and get into it. So Japan has an issue that many use as an over-exaggerated phrase here in the US, but for them it's so real they have a legit word for it. Karoshi in Japanese is translated literally as overworked death. In 2017, a Japanese woman died from overwork after logging 159 hours of overtime in a month. Now, there is statistics that say 25% of companies ask employees to do 80 hours of overtime, some of it unpaid. It's reported in their culture to even take vacation days makes people feel guilty, and of polled Japanese workers, over 60% of them feel bad taking holidays. Official numbers say that there are 200 Karoshi deaths each year, however unofficial numbers say it's much more. So we see right here how overworking and overexerting yourself can actually lead to some horrible things. Now we know as kingdom citizens, death is something that is not of Elohim. So when we see things like this, that's a sign for us that something is off here, something is not of the Father. And we know that we're meant to work. The scripture says if a man don't work, he don't eat. But the thing here is just how much you are working. You're not meant to work that much. And the Sabbath principle actually teaches us that. In the Sabbath principle, it says that you're actually supposed to rest on a seventh day. But it's not more so as it is about the resting, but it's more so acknowledging that the Father is the one who provides for you and your family. So working this much, a lot of times, a lot of people here in the U.S. do it, but they make themselves their provider. They go out and chase money and do things of this nature, but we know when it comes to the Father that He's our provider. So we lean and depend on Him to make provisions for us. Now, with this thing in Japan, it seems like it's more so a cultural thing with them. It comes from their past culture when they had the samurais and things of that nature. Back then, they had a belief that you were, loyal to the ones who hired you. And so it carries on in the culture. Now, see, that's a cultural difference. We know the kingdom of heaven has its own culture. It has its own rules, its own belief system. And cultures are formed from laws, from belief systems that are put into place. And they dictate the people with that. So with Karoshi, as kingdom citizens, we can learn that one, that Sabbath principle holds true, that we depend on the Father from our provisions, and we can take that 7th day showing and acknowledging that the Father is the one who gives provisions for us, and we only take care of the things that we need as far as work throughout on the 6 days. But at the same time, we make sure we don't overwork ourselves working 10, 15, 20 hours a day all the time to try to provide for yourself when the Father is our provider. I mean, why would we want to work that much in these days when we have other things that the Father tells us in scripture to do? If you're a husband or a wife, you have to make sure that you're there for your family, raising your kids, there for your spouse. If you're just a kingdom citizen period, whether you're married or not, you have to make sure you're studying and in the Word. This type of overtime and stuff like that, you don't have time being in the Word. You don't have time to study and seek the Father and seek His face. Then at the same time, we're supposed to go out and preach to others. We're supposed to spread the kingdom message and things like that. How do you have time to do that if you're in work so much? So a lot of these things that we're seeing going on in the world are things that, we kind of want to learn because, different people have they're in different cultures, they have different needs. You can come at them with different angles and showing the kingdom to them, but it's all about, understanding kingdom principles and how things works and how our culture is versus a lot of times how the culture of the world works. So that's what I wanted to leave you guys with. That's what I wanted to talk about. It's so much overworking in Japan that they actually have a term for it. And they actually have hard statistics on it that these things actually happen. So I wanted to bring you guys that on this Kingdom News. That's something else that's going on throughout the world that us as Kingdom citizens should know about. See you on the next one. Shalom.